work is in African culture awareness, economic empowerment, spiritual, religion, education, and other issues focusing on the African world. I'm Olivia Stevens, your host. Today, we are privy to a little known story in Southeast Washington, D.C. Our first guest, Ms. Jackie Carter, founder of the artistic director of Southeast D.C., owns Ja Kente. For over 30 years, Mrs. Carter, under the umbrella of Ja Kente, has worked in the community theater exclusively with youth that live and attend school in Anacostia. Jackie graduated from Howard University with a bachelor's in fine arts in 1997. Welcome back to the show, Jackie.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Since you're the founder, I guess that I can ask you why you decided to locate Ja Kente in Washington, D.C. in the neighborhood of Anacostia.
Yeah, I saw that there was a creative desert for young people. When I was attending Howard University, myself and other theater students were looking for opportunities to work in theater during the summer. And I found one over in Southeast at the American Theater Project. At the time was located on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And that summer I started going into the elementary schools primarily. And I saw that there was no artwork on the walls with the children. There was no theater programs, no music programs. So that summer I decided that along with my fellow Howard University theater major students that we would do a play festival. And we did our first play festival at that time, which was in '98, dedicated to Nina Simone.
Wow, that's beautiful. I was born and raised in D.C. Southeast, as a matter of fact.
Wonderful.
Why do you remain in Anacostia for 30 years?
Yeah, for that exact same reason.
Mm-hmm.
So we are constantly battling to keep theater arts alive in Ward 8 for children.
Yeah.
The gentrification is happening in Ward 8 right now in Anacostia. So there are some theater companies that have sprung up, like the Anacostia Playhouse and the Block Box and the Anacostia Art Center, but nothing for children, nothing for teens, nothing for little kids. So we still have a purpose there.
Mm-hmm.
We're still doing great work there. And in addition with advocating with other small grassroots not-for-profits, we're now beginning to get the money to put on great work with the young people, theater works primarily.
That's beautiful. So why do you think it's important to have live theater in the Black communities specifically?
Well, I personally believe that theater arts should be a core requirement subject, like math or English.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a requirement. We have young people sometimes that come to us through the juvenile justice system, or young people who are just struggling to find themselves. Theater gives them that opportunity to find their voice. And most people, when they think of theater, they just think of acting. But there's so much more. We are a teaching company. So we're actually training young people as playwrights. We're training them as directors. We're training them as light and sound designers. In addition to operating the equipment, we're teaching them how to build sets, which is carpentry and math.
Wow.
And then they work together as a team. Once we train them, they actually manage the production. We step back, and then the young people take charge. And that's why I stay. I stay because the young people need that outlet to find themselves, and particularly with all of the negative press that our children get. One of the things that we don't hear about our children a lot, and that is that the raw talent is unbelievable. And if they have an opportunity through the guidance of theater arts professionals and theater arts and just adults who care, they bloom and blossom into the most beautiful young people you'd ever want to encounter.
I can imagine.
Yes.
Like I said, I grew up, I only wish that I had something like that. I can see me in your program. Why did you become interested in pursuing a career in theater?
I was actually one of those children. I attended Fairfax County Public Schools, where I was labeled as a child for special education. At that time, I was raised by my grandparents, so there was no such word as dyslexia. You were just lazy,
right.
And you weren't doing your work. So, and because I was in a predominantly white school, my extra energy wasn't perceived as creative.
Right.
It was perceived as menacing.
Right, right.
So when I got a little older, I thought, I wanted to dance on Soul Train. So I went to California.
Me too.
So I went to California. I was naturally a gymnast, just naturally. I could do all the flips. I could do the splits. So I thought, I could dance on Soul Train. When we were younger, there was a curtain that divided our kitchen from our living room, and you go behind the curtain as yourself, and you pop out as Diana Ross. So I thought I could go on Soul Train, and so I went to California, and didn't work out. Ended up becoming sort of a tennis player, playing on the tennis court with the stars.
Ooh.
I was the warm up girl, but I learned a lot from those stars, who were a lot of the stars from the 70s. And when I came home 5 years later, I decided to put myself in Howard University and major in theater.
So you are a native of Northern Virginia.
Correct.
And you could have gone to so many different schools in Northern Virginia. I mean, George Mason being one. Why did you decide to go to Howard University?
Oh, that's a great question. My grandfather would always tell us that he was not black.
Oh, my goodness.
He would always tell us that he was Blackfoot Indian. And what we understood at that time about the Indians and what they looked like, that's not what my grandfather looked like. He looked straight African to me. But so when I was saying to my family, I'm going to go to college, then my grandfather was very insistent that I go to the college where his people were. All of the Indians were, the original Indians. And so Howard University was just a stone throw away from where I lived. So I picked Howard University.
Good choice.
Excellent choice.
You were an older student when you went to Howard University, and how, if all, did your age affect your college journey?
Right, another great question. The first thing was that I didn't look my age. So I looked a lot younger than what I actually was. So I actually blended in very well with the student population, and I didn't tell my age. So I was learning right along with the rest of them. I think the one advantage that I did have was that I was a homeowner and I was married.
But big difference.
Major difference. So there wasn't any challenges there, and no learning, no advantages in terms of learning, because I was learning and right along with the rest of them. But what I did have was ambition. I was driven a little bit more than the others.
Right. So describe your experience at Howard University, the School of Fine Arts, another building which I love as well. I'm an education major, but I spent so much time in School of Education, Fine Arts. So just describe your experience.
That was the best experience of my entire life, because
love that building.
I really got a chance to learn myself as a woman and as a black woman.
Wow.
There's so much history, so much literature on that campus. They have the cages down in Morgan Spingarn Library. I don't know if you've ever been in the cages.
Yeah.
And I would be in those cages sometimes for just reading on these phenomenal women and contributors to history, politics, science, math. And when I would come up out of that library, I felt sometimes 10 feet tall. And then I had the best professors. I came under Mike Malone, Vera Katz, Al Freeman. I called him Dr. Donald, and right to this day I don't remember his last name, but he was over the young people that made art with their hands, sculpting and stuff. And the music department, a professor that was over the choir. Those people really challenged me. And the other thing too is that they were so open to you coming and sitting and asking questions. I love the opera. I don't know how I came to love the opera, but I love the opera. And my final project at Howard, I wanted to do Scott Joplin's opera Treemonisha. And so I didn't learn until my junior year that I was dyslexic. So I was
your junior year of
college.
Wow.
Right. I was reading upside down is what I was doing. And I stumbled across that accidentally. by standing in front of the professor's desk looking down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm reading. But I was reading the opposite way.
Wow.
So I would put a book in front of me in class and hide the book that I was reading that was turned upside down. But in that journey, I came to not be afraid of that. So when I went to my professor and said I wanted to do Scott Joplin's Treemonisha, she said to me, Vera Katz said to me, I don't know, that's a hard one. And I told her, I've already finished it in my head.
Wow.
I just need you to help me get the other departments, because I had to work with 3 or 4 different departments, the dance department, the music department, the acting department, of course, which she did. She went to the other professors and said, let's let her try it. And they gave me the main stage. They
That's
gave
amazing.
they gave me Ira Aldridge, and I was just like, yes, Ira Aldridge. So that experience at Howard University meant everything to me. The other thing that I really loved about that experience at Howard University was the opportunity to work with the other students, and not just work with them on campus, but finding opportunities for us off campus, which is another skill I didn't know I had until I got angry behind it, that we could not find work at Source Theater, Studio Theater. They just were not hiring us. So when I kicked a door open at a particular theater company, I invited all of my theater fellow students to come and work there too. So we worked at Adventure Theater, and we eventually got into Source Theater when I went there and offered to clean up if they would give me an opportunity to direct a play. And when they said, yeah, okay, well, you clean up, we'll let you direct the play. And I brought in like 20 Howard University students. Okay, we're all going to work on this play.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
But
that's what we had to do, to create the opportunity for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you have so many. So I'm just engaged. I'm captivated just listening to that particular one right there. So I'm more familiar with seeing Black actors and African Americans behind the scenes doing the hair and makeup, makeup artists, and even a playwright. But it is rare to cross paths with professional African American directors of live theater. What inspired you to become a director?
I think because I just innately knew what I wanted, and one of the things I didn't want was to get on the stage and bare my soul.
Oh.
I was very apprehensive about that because of coming up, I had names, like Wacky Jackie, or Stupid, or She's a Clown, or She's just not that smart, or my personal favorite, oh, she's very pretty, but she's not that smart. So I didn't want to get in front of people and have them see that. I'd rather be the person behind the stage, kind of orchestrating it. That's better for me, that's safer for me. And so that's how I actually got into directing.
Did you have, is there a huge community for Black directors out there now?
Well, and thanks to what I like to say, our brothers and sisters coming to America, there are a lot of women directors now in theater. And if you look at some of the works at Shakespeare Theater downtown, a lot of those Nigerian sisters are down there getting it, and their works are being presented. When I was first coming up in theater, a theater company would read your work to death, but it would never walk across the stage.
Wow.
So they would get $10,000, and they would read your work, but it never gets stood up. But now those plays are being produced, and those women are back there doing it, and the brothers too. So yeah, we're starting to make our little mark in the theater world.
So did you have any exposures to directors as you were growing up?
Not a single one.
Not a single one.
No. I was raised by country people, so it was a big deal to watch TV. Even getting a TV in the house was a big deal. So it was my grandfather listened to radio. So you ask me something about a radio show, I can tell you anything you want to know about that.
Think about radio.
Yeah, TV was not something that, or directing and artistic stuff. Yes.
So it's amazing how things just totally evolve.
Yeah.
In my adolescence, thinking about directors, basically they tell you the direction and all those things. Am I wrong? What is the job of a live director? I mean, a director of live theater.
Right. So with any director, the job is to interpret.
Oh.
Interpret the work of the playwright,
Uh-huh.
and to help the playwright's vision make it to the stage.
Yes.
You know, sometimes when playwrights and directors work together, there's conflict, because the director has one vision, the playwright has another vision. I like to work inside of the playwright's vision,
Mm-hmm.
because it's usually from their personal experience, what they're writing about,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those characters that they're writing about is some aspect of them. Right, I like to say that playwrights are walking around with 250,000 people in their head.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe in their lifetime, 1,000 of them will make it to the page. But it's either a part of something that they have experienced personally, or a experience that they've been a part of. So you take that work and you research it. First, you research the playwright.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to do this work? And you learn everything that you can about the playwright. And then you look at what they've written and you research that. And I'll give you just an example of that. If you take the play A Raisin in the Sun,
Mm-hmm.
Lorraine Hansberry lived that experience. You know, her father was denied a house in a community that he could afford because he was a professional man. He made the money and he could afford to live there.
Mm-hmm.
But they were denied that experience. She took that experience and she put it in A Raisin in the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
She was also a very outspoken woman for the time that she grew up in the 60s, 50s, 60s.
Mm-hmm.
She married a white man, but she grew up in the black, the civil rights struggle, the buddings of the civil rights struggle. That shows up in the character in her play, the sister to Walter Lee, which I can't think of her name. Let's see, there's Walter Lee, Mama, Beneatha.
Beneatha.
Yeah, that shows up in Beneatha, with Beneatha bringing in the African culture, which is very much part of Lorraine Hansberry's experience through the Black Power movement and the war in Ethiopia when African Americans left this country to go and help the Ethiopians fight the Italians. So, and she introduces the African character in her play. Then she takes it one step further. Lorraine Hansberry was not a housewife. You know, during that time period, a lot of black women were women, housewives. They cooked, they cleaned, but they primarily took care of the house.
Yeah.
Lorraine Hansberry was a professional woman who smoked. So we see that in the Beneatha character as well. She's going to go to school to be a doctor. So everybody better get used to it. She's not going to get married and have 50 kids. You know, so that's the things that you want to be able to interpret for the actor. Well, not interpret, but give the actor that history so they can then interpret the character the way they see it. So it's a kind of a build on thing, but that's the role of the director.
Right.
Yeah.
That's important because, like I said, I thought it was like just directing stage left or right, but that's important. That is huge. Do directors make decisions on costuming and the scenery?
They do. I think a smart director, and I would consider myself to be a smart director.
I'll consider you a smart director.
Thank you. A smart director will hire people who are really good at what they do and then let them do it. So what I like to do is surround myself with people that are really good and say, this is my vision. How close can I get to it? Can you deliver my vision to me? I think I have good visions because I do research. The designer tries to get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
So they do less interpreting and more understanding what you want and use their craft to deliver it to you.
Wow. So I refer to you as a director, but actually you're a director, a producer, and a theater founder. How has being a triple threat helped you sustain being in a theater company?
Oh, wow, triple threat. Thank you. I think it's, less help me and more help me help others, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I'm able to help the young person who wants to start their own nonprofit and produce theater, fashion, or whatever they want to do. I'm able to help them do that because I've done it before. or I'm able to help the young person who really wants to be a great director hone that skill, because I can do that as well. Able to help the young person who really wants to be a dynamic playwright, so I can explain that and read their work and really help them get to where they want to go conceptually. So I think it's helped me to really help others.
So, in addition to graduating with your bachelor's degree from Howard University, how would you tell an audience out there about your background experiences and how they've shaped you? So this is, for example, I understand that you've interned in the Anacostia-based theater company, the American Theater Project, that you've collaborated with the National Park Service, Ballou Senior High School, the DC Department of Employment Service, Summer Youth Employment, and the Frederick Douglass Holistic Site. So how has all that shaped Jackie?
Right. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is creating opportunity for our young people. And when I go to these entities, I'm always looking first to see, okay, so what do you have for the children to do? Is there anything for the kids to get involved in? And if there's not, how can we create that? So the Frederick Douglass Historic Site in Anacostia, they do not do any kind of special programming. So I was like, well, okay, if I find the money, can we do it? And they was like, oh, yeah, sure, if you find the money. So I was like, okay, I got it, let's do it. So we were able to do some plays on the lawn there and invite the community in to come and watch the young people on like their picnic day, do their thing on the lawn. With the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, we work every summer with upwards of 100 and some odd children. This year we're doing what we call our 10-minute play festival. It's our 4th annual 10-minute play festival, where the young people write the 10-minute plays.
Wow.
They design the costumes, they build the set pieces, they do the lights, the sound, they do the marketing, they do the public relations. So they're actually learning how to write a press release, they're learning how to create a flyer. And then we back off, us theater professionals, we back off and let them manage the festival. We're doing that in partnership with the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. With the Marion Barry Leadership Academy, our youth radio show kicks off in October the 13th, I think, which is a Sunday, where the young people will now have a radio show. They can come on and talk about those things that are important to them. But since I'm really political, I put my own little touch on it. So there will be some political conversations with those young people who are political. They're political minded. And I'll tell you something. Our young people who are ankle monitored are the most political kids that you will ever encounter. They know the political system, they understand the system, they can articulate it. If you clean up the English a little bit, they are so on point, and I'm so proud of that. So I go into these partnerships with the intention of creating opportunities for our young people.
So listening to all the things that they have, I'm just curious about the age groups.
14 to 18.
14 to 18, yeah, wow, never underestimate.
Never underestimate them. It's my favorite crop. I love teenagers. I love them. I just watching them try to get.
I can definitely tell. You speak with such passion. When you talk about them, and like I said, I go back into that inner Jackie, but when you speak about them, you speak with a lot of passion.
Oh, yeah.
And I can hear it.
I like it. I love it when I see that click go off in them and they realize that I can do it. I'm in charge and I can do it. And then you see less of them challenging you, and particularly,
right,
and more of them challenging themselves and it's geared towards the work. But
you're showing them that just hearing you, just showing them how you are important, and that all this is saying that to them. That's just what I hear when I.
Absolutely.
Can you also explain how you collaborate with Howard University in implementing a public speaking course and a techniques of debate workshop at Anacostia Senior High School?
Right. So I had developed this show called It's Blackademics. And it was a show where it was just a community show. And initially, these boys that were in a gang, I recruited them right out of that gang. And I said, okay, so instead of fighting, let's see if we can debate what your issues are with each other.
That is brilliant.
And it worked. And we did it at the Clara Muhammad School that's on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue one summer. And from that, I was like, you know what? Let me give them some history and let them debate that. And so the first topic we did was what caused the fall of the Marcus Garvey movement. And it was such a beautiful thing to do. And my good friend said, you know, you should really, really do this as, a part of what you do. So I said, okay. So we went to Anacostia High School and found my old high school principal, Dr. Wilson, the principal at Anacostia High School. So I told him what I wanted to do, and he said, okay, let's do it. Then he came to me later and said, okay, so now I need a favor from you. I want to develop this public speaking class. Will you do that? And I was just like, I don't have any experience that way. So he's like, well, you do now, so do it. So I was like, all right. So I went to John H. Johnson School of Communications and talked with the professors about developing this public speaking course for high school. Then I called up my old buddies in the news, people who had interviewed me in the past.
You get it done.
And I asked them if they would, and I called some friends at WPGC hosts, disc jockeys, I guess that's what they're called, and asked them if they would, give some sessions in the public speaking course. And that's kind of how it came along. And then he asked me if I would teach it.
I love listening to you. I really do. So why is it important for African Americans to be amply numbered among the ranks of directors, producers, theater company owners?
Yeah, so it's important because we have yet to really touch on our stories. I say we make movies and films following the culture that's in charge. But we're not telling the story of Nzinga, Queen Nzinga, or Akhenaten, or we're not telling our stories. And so I think the more we have of our people from wherever we are in the world, telling our stories and collaborating as directors and writers, I think the better off our children will be.
I agree. I so agree. You are also the executive director of the newly named National Association for African-Centered Primary School. What is the mission of this organization?
Yeah, so I did this Mayat conference 2 years ago at the Thurgood Marshall Center, where the purpose of the Mayat conference was to put African-centered primary schools in the forefront, to say to the people in our community who have money, give your money to these schools.
Yes.
And so the process of doing that conference, I thought, it would be a really good idea if I invited some of the presidents of the HBCUs to be a part of the conference. And then I got another idea that it would be really good to invite some of the presidents of the National Black Organizations and Associations to be a part of the conference. I invited a young man by the name of Young Pharaoh, 21, to come from New York to be our keynote speaker for the conference. I also invited a young man from Ghana who I Skyped into the conference from Ghana to be the second speaker in the conference. It was so powerful. I got the idea that what I need to do is to start a not-for-profit where I can create a new pipeline. So instead of going from school to prison pipeline, we would go from African-centered primary school to the HBCU to the National Black Organizations and Associations, which is where I think all the brain trust is really resting. So that was the idea behind it. So I'm planning a conference, not really a conference, but I'm planning a conference in 2022 to bring to the table the leaders of the African-centered primary schools, of which there's 28 in the country, and as many presidents or their representatives from the university, the HBCUs, along with the presidents of the associations into a conference so that we can look at how do we create this new pipeline? How do we go from take our young people from, get them into the African-centered primary school where they're enriched culturally, because cultural competence is extremely important, and go from the African-centered primary school to the HBCU and even change some of that culture there, because it's, I always say it has a little leakage from the culture that's in charge, that's destructive, and kind of affect that culture, and then go to the National Black Association for Lawyers, National Black Association for Nurses, National Black Hotel Owners, National Black this, that, and third. So that's the purpose, is to create a new pipeline.
Okay. So when we come back, we'll be joined on stage by two members of Jackie Theater, and someone Jackie mentored and partnered with Jackie on a summer youth program will be with us.
Okay.
So thank you, Jackie.
You're very welcome, and thank you also.
Spicy groves and cinnamon trees. What is Africa to?
We've been joined by Jamal Harris and Miss Tyler and Morty. Jamal is executive producer of the Jamal Harris Project, and Tyler is the choreographer for the Ja Kente Incorporated. So Jamal, I'll start with you. Would you explain to the audience how you first came to work with Miss Carter?
Well, I first came to work with Miss Carter when I was going to Ballou Senior High School, and I still remember it to this day. I was actually on a band trip in California, and right before I left, I seen a flyer for A Raisin in the Sun to audition for Anna's Gold Children's Theater Company.
Oh.
And I called and I left a voicemail and expressed my interest in the production. And Miss Carter wound up calling me while I was on that trip. And she said, well, the auditions have already taken place, but we'll allow you to audition when you come back. And once I got back, I went to Anacostia High School and I auditioned. And from there, it was all she wrote. I've been with Miss Carter ever since.
That sounds like her. I understand from your running your own nonprofit. I understand that you run your own nonprofit.
Yes.
What is the mission of your nonprofit?
Well, the mission of my nonprofit is to help inner city youth believe in themselves. That's the main mission, is to believe in yourself.
Exactly.
We have so many youth that don't believe in themselves.
Right.
It's a lot of youth that just walk around with their head hanging low. And I really want them to be able to walk into a room and hold their head up high and say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm amazing.
That's important. That is beautiful. What in your experience or your formal education prepared you to be an executive director of a nonprofit?
Wow, that's a big question. Well, I would like to say that I came out the womb as an executive director. As far as I could think back, even in elementary school, I was always that lead in any production that was at the school. Even going into middle school, I was the lead in directing and producing the stage productions at my school. So I've always had that go-getter leader mentality.
That's always been you, huh?
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you face as an executive director?
Some of the challenges, I would say, being an advocate for the youth. I think a lot of adults are not really used to you being an advocate for the youth and really understanding what they have to say and really hearing their voice. So I think being an advocate for the youth has been one of my challenges.
And that is so important.
Absolutely.
We really need that now. Jamal, I understand that you are a stylist to the stars. Would you
Yes.
explain, what is a stylist?
A stylist, a wardrobe stylist, is actually someone that will come and pick out your clothes for you, depending on what event you plan on attending, and make sure that your look is complete.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe. Who are some of the people that you worked with in the past, and who are you currently working with?
I've worked with Ramona Jeffries from the Real Housewives of New York. I've also worked with Grammy Award-winning Monica Brown. And I've also worked with Janet Mock, who is actually one of the executive producers and director on the new show Pose.
Wow, I love that show. Tyler, it's your turn. Would you explain what a choreographer does?
So a choreographer is pretty much someone who has to be well diverse in different areas of dance, like going from modern, ballet, jazz, hip hop, and things of that nature, so that you can give whoever is hiring you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll ask you the same thing that I asked Jamal. What in your background of formal education has prepared you to choreograph for the stage?
well, I started off in ballet when I was 3.
Oh, that's pretty young.
Yes, and I've been in taking different dance classes throughout my years of life, and that has well prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Do you have a favorite genre?
I love jazz. That's my favorite because it's so free, it's different and unique in a sense.
In my mind, I'm a dancer. What kind of challenges do you face as a choreographer?
Well, my biggest challenge, it's really not a challenge, it's more of a fear. And the fear is running out of creative ideas. And I would say that I really have not had that fear this summer because the kids inspire me so much.
Wow.
So I'm always thinking of different things I can give them to try, different ways I can challenge them and really push them. And they love it, so it always keeps me thinking and going.
And I agree, kids is inspiration. Those ideas will keep coming. They'll keep coming.
Yes.
I understand that you model with Jamal for his nonprofit.
I do.
How old were you when you first started modeling with Jamal?
I was probably like 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was 8.
8.
So is it safe to say that you're pursuing a career in modeling now?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very safe to say.
So when you're not modeling or choreographing, Tyler, I understand that you are an engineering student at the World Now HBCU, North Carolina A&T. How has your experience at North Carolina A&T been?
First of all, Aggie Pride all day, every day.
Okay, wait a minute now. I got to sit here and take that because
Because the real HU, right?
Go through all that whole HU. Okay, go ahead.
But my experience at the illustrious North Carolina and Agricultural Technical State University has been amazing. It's incredible. I'm actually really, really happy that I went to an HBCU because I came from a majority, predominantly white schools and things of that nature. So when I got to North Carolina A&T, I was really happy to see, other students that look like me, talk like me, act like me, dress like me, natural hair, like everything, doing well and, doing things that I wasn't used to seeing people of my skin color doing. And it was amazing, and it just wanted to make me do better for myself.
Right, and
So.
just having that experience. I mean, would you consider like a culture shock?
It was a culture shock. Like when I first came to A&T, I was not rocking my natural hair. Like I was, going to the hairdresser, getting my hair straight. But now I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of where I
Exactly.
come from, and I'm proud of my history and things like that.
Exactly.
So.
That's beautiful. So we are going to play a clip from one of your choreographed numbers. So
Yeah, Tyler is doing an amazing job for us this summer as our lead choreographer, working with about 8 girls, creating an original piece for our 10-minute play festival entitled The Carpet-Colored Children of Anacostia that opens August 1st and 2nd at the Solomon G. Brown Recreation Center, Community Center in Southeast DC.
okay, so let's take a look at that clip. Welcome back. Two students have joined us on the stage, Dwayne Harris and Miss Sierra Thornton. Both are students at Ballou High School. We'll start with you, Dwayne. How were you introduced to Jacente Incorporated?
Um, I was introduced to Jacente Incorporated through Miss Jackie. She found me taking one of my friends to her practice for theater and stuff, and Miss Jackie was like, "So, this she was vigorously asking me to come. You know, I really didn't want to do theater at first, but it kind of turned into something that piqued my interest because it was like, why does she want me to join so bad? Like, what do I have that she wants? So, you know, I went to go view because you know I like to really get out there, put everything out there, and I'm like, okay, it must be something that I'm not seeing that she sees. So I was like, you know what, let's do this. I got into it, and at first I really didn't want to, you know, do acting and stuff. So I went over to sound and tech department, and that's where my career with Miss Jackie and Jacente International like kind of started.
So I hear acting, I hear the other background. What all do you do with the company?
Well, as of now, I've mastered sound, tech, and set and design, and also acting. So right now, I'm really teaching my peers. If any actors need advice, you know, I'll give them advice. Right now, I'm training people how to use sound, how to use tech, how to do set and design. And then sometimes I do networking. So anytime I run into somebody who's, you know, up in high places or you know, who can put me in a better spot, I'll take their number, get their contact information, and sometimes if somebody needs, you know, another push, I'll direct them over there. So I was trying to give marketing a number or so, but I was a little bit too late, you know, because it's really hard to get people's schedules, you know, in order, aligned with yours. So I do a little bit of networking as well.
So do you have a favorite? Like if you had to choose out of all that whole gamut of things that you do you have a favorite?
Of course. Well, no, not necessarily. It's really hard to distinguish between whether I would choose acting or whether I would choose, you know, a sound. Like, because I really love my soundboard, messing with it, you know, fixing the mics. It's kind of fun for me because it's like, oh, not a lot of people can do this. I can do this. So it makes me kind of feel somewhat accomplished. So it's that, and then it's the acting. You get to pretend, and you get to be a whole nother character. Because then it brings you to that question, like, if you could live another life, like, who would it be? And then you get to portray different, you know, people, and I don't know. I kind of like it that way. So if I had to choose, I'd probably do. I'd say more so sound, because even in sound you can still do the acting, because it's like, oh, if they need you for that part, you can still, you know, do it behind the scenes, you know. You know, it's just like, oh, I can do that part better. Right. He's not doing it, watch this. Let me go up there, show him, what, you know, give him a little bit of advice. So I'll probably choose sound, because you can more so do that. Because if I'm doing acting and somebody needs help in the sound, then I couldn't really get back there. It's just like I'm on stage, and if they're messing up, it's just like I didn't do my part. I kind of feel like it's my responsibility to teach other people. Even though we have managers that, you know, I don't get everything perfect. So
it sounds like you do everything. What are your plans after high school?
After high school, I really wanted to be a pilot, and I'm still on that track. I had a kind of a sort of a golden plan, and it kind of backfired a little bit, because I was really going to take that route, going through the military, getting the college degree, going back into the military as an officer after I served all my contract years. Then they were going to pay for my flight school, and, you know, paying for college. And then I was going to have like a whole bunch on my resume already. The military was going to push me through. Flight school was going to be even better than pilot, and they make a lot of money. I really wanted to be a pilot, though. And that kind of started when I was in, sixth grade? Because in sixth grade, we went to a program called TransSTEM. TransSTEM was a program, it's like engineering. They teach you how to do aerodynamics, mathematics, and I think computer science. And in that program, we built our own video game. We built a robot, and we flew helicopters. Not literally, some of us did, because we were on the simulators, and only the best got to sit in the front seat with as a co-pilot. So, my department, I had a little degree, diploma, or whatever, from graduating from the program, and they called me Top Gun, and it's supposedly a movie on Netflix that I've never saw. Like I searched it up, but
You have never seen
I've
Top
never
Gun?
seen Top Gun.
Oh my God, this is part 2 is about to come out. You better get caught up.
Oh man,
I can see
But
you in it. So, what
so-
year is this for you? Is this your senior year?
yes,
Senior year. You have a long resume already. I like what I'm hearing.
yeah.
So I'm Sierra. How were you introduced to Jacquente?
Okay, I was introduced by the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. That's a program for the DC students to get like job experiences.
I remember it. I would say you get a chance to choose your job, and you chose this one.
Well, I didn't choose it.
It
I
chose
just-
you.
Yeah, I just put like performing arts, and it gave me a list, and I didn't choose anything because I was too late. So they gave me Jacquente, and then it said actor. So I was like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. And then Dwayne told me to keep it because he was like, the people are cool and they're like family. So I was like, okay, I'll just give it a try.
So how long have you been in the program?
This is my first year.
Your first year. So can you now see yourself as an actor?
No.
No. Have you both worked together during the program?
No, we have two
somewhat.
separate jobs.
Two separate jobs, so they've never run into each other.
Well, back when I was saying I did networking, I was trying to give their department, a little bit of a push, but I was too late. So I mean, we kind of run into each other, and sometimes they'll make like lists for us whether we want, they do like hospitality as well. So they'll make lists and stuff for us, and they really work with every department. But I'll let her elaborate more because I'm not in marketing. So I really don't know everything, but I kind of get a picture because, they type up everything, make sure everything is typed. If we need something, they got it. Like, oh, who, mic belonging to this person,
Right.
whose costume belongs to that person, which dancer gets which costume. Like, they type all that up. So, I mean, they really have everything. They really work with every department
That's
in that
awesome.
sense.
So, like I asked him, with all the things that he does, what all do you do?
With Jacquente,
Yeah,
I only do one thing.
you do the acting.
No,
What? You do the
marketing and public
the
relations.
marketing. So, do you see yourself going on with that? Have you caught that bug?
Well, the people there, they made me feel like family. So I was like, maybe this is cool for me, but like, I don't know. I want to study something else.
Is this your senior year as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So, what are your plans after school? After you graduate?
I was planning to go to college, but like, I'm iffy. I'm iffy on which one.
On which one?
Yeah. Because at first I wanted like a diverse school, but like HBCUs feel like home.
Yeah, yeah.
So the college that I'm thinking of right now is North Carolina Central University.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I haven't had a chance to sit with you long. Somebody else has. They had a chance to sit with you long. So Howard is a really good school.
Great school.
So don't put that out of your list of choices. So what are some other things that you're interested in?
I like dancing, but like I haven't been dancing in a while, so I don't know about that anymore. I plan on studying business management, so I can get a better field of how to do this, how to control stores of your own choice. So, and they make a lot of money. So
That's important.
Can I add a point of
You
brag
sure- you
about
sure-
this talented
you
young
may
lady?
Go right ahead.
Part of what she's been doing in marketing and public relations is with the team, they actually wrote our press release for us for the 10-minute play festival that we're doing now, the Copper Colored People of Anacostia. They also designed our flyer. They also did a marketing street campaign when they went out and talked to various businesses. But this beautiful young lady also plays the saxophone,
trumpet.
the trumpet. She plays the trumpet, so she's really talented. We try to
You do
recruit
it
her to play
all.
trumpet for us.
Wow. You do it all. So you think you can go into like a music minor?
Nope.
Nope.
I just do it in high school.
You do it. So Jackie, you were talking about the copper colored children of Anacostia. Can you expound more on that and tell us about that?
Oh yeah. When the explorers or colonizers or invaders or whatever you want to call them came into Washington D.C., what they wrote in their journals about the people that they found there, they described them, and they described them as having hair like the Ethiops, the nappy hair like the Ethiops, and copper-colored skin. So we took that and turned that, since there's copper-colored skin all on the stage and all in Ward 8 Anacostia. So we decided to pay homage to those people who were found here, the founders of Washington, D.C., and we titled our festival after them, the Copper-Colored Children of Anacostia.
That's amazing. So will either of you be a part of the program or the production?
Well, for me, I do run sound, so I'm do sound management, but I also oversee lights and set design just to make sure like they have everything. So there are, I decided to make it like a leader type situation. So I'm trying to make this group chat where every leader from every department, make sure everybody has what they need, because every department is tied to another department in some type of way. So we just make sure everything has what they need. So I've made a leader for set design. He comes to me with whatever he needs, and I made a leader for lights, and he comes to me with whatever they need. And then I'm also training another set and design person, just in case one of the two lights people aren't here, like they haven't been before. Like it's been one of these days that both of them have not been here due to probably family matters. So I was like, just in case that might happen during the day of, I've trained somebody else doing set and design to, do that as well.
Some of our audience may want to know, what goes into that? Because you mentioned that in the beginning. So what do you mean when you say set and design? Is in lighting included in all that?
During the basic training, maybe the first 2 weeks or so of this program, we, played around with the lights, see what the lights can do, what colors they can make, what might look good on it. So what set and design does, they move the set props on and off the stage, give all the actors what they need in order to, be that character. And, like maybe we might make a throne like the king might sit on, or, something like that. That's what they do. And then we also have a designer there. He's like, ooh, maybe this might look nice, envisioning stuff. And then lights plays a role into that, because if you have like a kingdom and then, this high king, he's sitting up, maybe you might want a specific color for that. But if you're throwing like daisy pink on it, I don't think, that might sit well. So they have to sit together and see what might come. Like at one point we was thinking it only makes bland colors. So, I was like, maybe not. So we took another light board and we hooked it up to two different light systems. And surprisingly, we made northern lights. And northern lights, we were,
Whoa.
just making it, throwing a ceiling. I was like, okay, so it needs to fade in here, fade out there, just getting them to blend colors and see what goes well on which. But sadly, we were not able to incorporate northern lights into the show. But there might be another place with it, somewhere else.
I was just going to say, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Give them an opportunity to shine, and they will run with it.
And she mentioned earlier just giving it to you all and just pulling back. And when I'm listening to it, it is amazing. To, I guess because I'm old, but I'm not that. But I was never just like here and let me see what you can do with it. But just to watch all of you all just listening to you, go right ahead.
So with me, I don't like people nagging me at all. But when Miss Jackie did it, it was just like, okay, like what is so important? Like when I got into it, I wasn't really feeling it at first. But I noticed that when I brung my friend into it, because I brung my friend into it, he played the character of Malcolm X. We were really like getting, into character on the stage, because that's my friend. So, we play around. And when you push kids to do things, like it was still those moments where we were like, I didn't want to do it. He was really into it. I didn't want to do it because, I didn't feel comfortable being an actor because it's my first time. I always used to hide behind the camera, like let me be in the background, like I can get a tiny bit of credit, but I don't really want to be the center. And then, once they pushed me into it and they kept, motivating me to do it and kept giving me all this advice, like you can do it if you could just do this and that, and then sometimes you just got to give like a kid like a persistent push,
Right.
or you know, so what some call it, you know, the nagging or whatever.
Yeah.
And the kids will thrive after you know, do it, because once they learn how to do it and they see somebody else doing their job, they like, nah, you're not doing this right, you know, and they're gonna throw their ideas in there. Sometimes it might come off as a little bit like, oh, this kid's about to do something, but really it's just kids coming in like, you're not doing it the way I did it, like, and then in that little moment of disruption, it'll be like the idea like, oh, maybe we could do it this way, but also we could still leave it in from what this other dude is doing. So it's like a kind of elaboration on what everybody's doing. But if you push kids into doing something, I believe they could thrive, you know, after you give them that certain push.
In our first segment, she saw something in everybody, just listening to her because she saw herself in it. And this is just like the fruit of her labor, but it's a beautiful fruit. I just want to switch segments before our time ends and just talk about how do you both partner?
The Jamal Harris Project, we train youth in performing arts and fashion show production. So we incorporate theater into our dramatic fashion shows. So this year we actually have 3 really strong theater segments in the show, and Ms. Carter is directing all 3 of those pieces.
Wow. I would just like to hear some quick final words from each person, even if it's just maybe something motivating or something that you're going to do in the future after having all this experience, but just something, just a final word. Who would like to go first?
My mom used to say, "You're still a kid," and I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be a kid," but other people's like, "Don't grow up too fast." So that's what I live by now.
Okay.
Well, my message is really for the youth of everywhere. Don't give up. Keep trying. Believe in yourself, and always push yourself, because you never know what you can achieve if you don't try and, you know, push yourself to go for it.
That is so true.
Well, my message would be probably, it only takes that one step of courage and bravery, and to do something that you really don't want to do, to know that you can actually do something and be more than what you thought you can be. So I'm going to keep it that short, because I like to talk.
And Jackie?
Mine is, I want to ask the universe and the ancestors to give me $1 billion so I can get a building so that I can work with as many young people as I possibly can, and that's the legacy that I want to leave behind.
Ask for me too.
For you too.
Well, I have truly been honored with just listening to everything I've heard today. I mean, just all this wealth of knowledge is going to make me go back and just start Googling everybody up here and all the things that you all do.
Well,
and I definitely want to be invited to everything, not just some things. I want to be I really want to know more about that sound and lighting. I want to find out what's happening with you. I want to learn how to dance. I want to be styled. I want to find out more about your project. So just keep me informed. I know you will.
Oh,
after you add your to your enormous list. Thank you, Jackie Carter, Tyler, Dwayne, Sierra, Jamal, for being our guest today. And thank you, audience, for taking the time to tune into this hour with the African Vision Network. We invite you to join us for our upcoming shows on Arlington Independent Media, and remind you that shows aired previously on Arlington Independent Media may be found on YouTube. Until then, this is Olivia Funnye Stevens, your host, wishing you peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.